Well, in hard times, it's always the children who lead the suffering. Bewildered, uncomprehending, they don't know why people get killed about them or why they have to go without food. They're the silent witnesses, saying nothing, feeling everything. A decade ago, I was in Sarajevo, a Bosnian city held under siege for years. We'll see what mark that left on the children in a moment, but first, let's see what it was like then. The schools are back in Sarajevo and the lessons of the past year have stuck. The children arrived by the back entrance, sheltered from snipers, not across the open ground in front. 2 hours a day are spent in de-stressing exercises, trying to teach trust in a city where suspicion kept them alive. Their drawings are their everyday experiences. The death of a friend in a park, life in a cellar for 600 days. Now they act out stories of sparrows, free to fly at will. Their teacher says they're withdrawn and unable to concentrate. The city psychologist predicts a future filled with aggression and revenge. Well, now those children are in early adulthood and an exhibition of their artwork is on show in London. It's been compiled by Ilana Haviv from the Children's Centre for Creative Education, and she's here in the studio. And we do have some examples of their work, which we'll be looking at in a moment. But first, we saw what they were painting then. What kind of things are they doing now?
Well, these are teenagers, so that may have been one of our students when they were children. The difference is, of course, it's almost 10 years in the past. And this particular art and memoirs is a chance for them to go back into their past and express themselves, show to the world what that was like.
Let's see some of what they're doing now, and tell us what you think it tells us about what's in their minds.
Well, this is a very interesting piece. This was done very quickly, the first piece at the end of the summer, by a student who just sat down for 10 minutes and created a mask and wrote on top of it, "I saw everything, I couldn't say anything." And that pretty much represents all of these teenagers that we're working with.
So these are memories they're pulling out.
That particular image was memories that they were pulling out. When we first met with them 2 years ago, they said, "We really want the chance to tell the world about our past, about the present, about the future we see before us. We feel that when the war was over and the journalists left, we were forgotten."
Well, tell us about this one. This is quite intriguing, all the people together.
This is a really beautiful piece that served the project in many different ways. First of all, they're life masks. So the students themselves put the plaster on each other's faces, and that takes a lot of trust because your eyes have to be closed and your mouth is covered. And then they chose, after much debate, to take their masks and put them all together into a cocoon. And they realized in that process that they have a lot of power when they come together and then when they work together. So that's a very beautiful piece.
Does this help them? We've got another one here which struck me particularly, which is at the names of those who died, and drops of red blood, I presume, falling down onto a map of Europe. Now, is this helping them in some way to do this, or is it just simply telling you what they feel?
Well, I think that this particular piece really did help this student. His name is Amir, because he wanted to really tell the world, you know, let's remember all these people that lost their lives. These 10,000 people were civilians, as he was a civilian during the war. And also on the map itself, he splattered it with red paint like blood because he wanted to say, you know, Europe remembered this, and next time take the responsibility to do something ahead of time.
Who do they blame for this? So at the time they didn't have any knowledge. Now they're growing up. Do they blame their parents for being involved, Europe for sitting outside, the other side for doing it?
I think it's a mix of all of the above, quite frankly. I think it's very easy to immediately blame outside the countries that weren't involved. But I think that now as they get older, they're taking a stronger look at their own country and the history of former Yugoslavia, for sure.
And this presumably is less art in some ways than history. This is documenting something that people thought could never happen in Europe. Is that part of the purpose of bringing it to London and elsewhere?
The main purpose of bringing it around the world is so that the world does remember what happened. And also because we are in a world that moves so quickly. I mean, how often now do we hear Afghanistan in the news? I mean, Iraq is dominant in the news. And I feel personally it's important to really take a look at something, especially 10 years later, and look at the aftermath of it. And I think in your story, what the psychiatrists were saying 10 years ago is true. There are so many different layers of healing. And I mean, we have students only now who are talking for the first time about what they went through 15 years ago, and are only now having the memories of what they went through 15 years ago. And I think that this is what makes this piece, this exhibit, so very important.
Elana Haviv, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's it from the programme. We'll be back again tomorrow if you can join us again then. But until then, goodbye.